That's the highest thing you can do. They're the priority. And so, and that's what I think everyone needs to do is to realize that they need relationship.
Welcome, everybody. This is the Wichita Live Podcast. I am Landon Huselig, host of the Wichita Live Podcast and curator of the Wichita Live ICT Instagram. What is your first thought when you think of the homeless population in our city? Our guest today is Jon Gordon, who is the pastor of Neighborhood Fellowship, Orphan Care, and Racial Reconciliation at City Life Church, where he spends a lot of time with the homeless in Wichita. Jon shares his experience of living with the homeless for a whole week during the summer. We discuss his thoughts on panhandlers, relationships, and homeless stereotypes. Please enjoy my conversation with Jon Gordon. All right, Jon, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
I am 33, and I've lived in Wichita for, about half my life, and I've lived in a conservative community, and I lived in more liberal Chicago and LA for the other half of my life. And so I've moved around as a pastor's kid and now as a pastor myself. I'm just you have to move around some, and so I'm comfortable just in different environments. And that's just, and now I pastor a homeless church is my primary responsibility. And a multi-ethnic homeless church, and I love it, and I have a lot of fun.
Awesome. So cool. And we'll get a little bit more into that. But so you got to Wichita because of your parent or your dad's job and everything?
Yeah. I was born in Chicago, and then my dad, he was a professor, chaplain at Wheaton College in Chicago, and then he became a pastor at First Baptist, which is the church we're in now, that's renamed, and when I was 3. Okay. And so then from 3 to 15, I lived here. Oh wow! Okay. And then we went to go suffer for Jesus in Southern California, and that's where I'd call home. Okay. And so I did high school, and then I went to UCLA, and so that's where I'd really.
So a lot of your old friends are there.
Yeah.
Primary years, 15 to 18.
Exactly. Yeah. Just sort of shaped me, formed me, and then went to Chicago to do inner city ministry and go to graduate school.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So. And then it was the church called my last year of graduate school and said, hey, would you be interested to come here? And it was kind of because you wouldn't expect Wichita, Kansas to have a church that has a Lao Thai congregation, a Hispanic congregation, a Chinese, Arabic, and then a homeless congregation. Right. And so it's that diversity that brought me here. I would never want to live in Wichita again.
Right.
I just wanted a bigger city, but I just felt called. I knew, first phone call, I stopped looking for any other job.
Wow.
And decided, okay, if I can get this job, I'll do it.
That's cool.
And we're very happy. We're very happy here in Wichita. We love it. We have a great family. We could be here. We could be here for a long time. Mm-hmm. But again, my wife and I's hearts are big city.
Sure.
But I think that God is using that to kind of solve some of the problems that are more normal in bigger cities that I'm just being around a lot of diversity and stuff like that, to kind of tackle some of that here.
Definitely. Well suited for it. Sure. Yeah. Is your wife from California?
My wife is from Atlanta.
Okay. So big city as well.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
So with your dad being a pastor and professor and everything, did you always see yourself going this route, or?
In eighth grade, I had an experience where I believed I was going to be a pastor.
Okay.
And I have never doubted that since.
Wow.
And so
that's pretty early though. Still.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
And so there was one moment in my senior year of college where I was a little scared about moving to Chicago or this next step, and I maybe had a week or two of just questioning, am I really supposed to do this?
Right.
And my dad and I went and looked at the graduate school, and it was clear. Yeah. Worst case scenario, I get a semester of graduate school and then return home.
Right.
And so it's kind of I couldn't lose.
Right.
So we just did it, and then it was very clear
Sure.
that I wanted to do this.
Cool.
So,
cool. And I'm sure those doubts are normal for anybody that goes through that. So.
Yeah. And like my dad is like this very, like, I mean, I think you have, and my dad is someone who like would stop Wednesday night church, wouldn't do it during my basketball season.
Wow.
To go to my games.
Yeah.
You know, like, and so like
That's
church
cool.
was not over family. Family was over. And so like I just don't have, none of my siblings have any baggage with church.
Wow.
There's 4 of us. And it's because my dad did not prioritize it over us.
Right.
And which is a gift, and which is, I think, has helped me come into of having a really good view and not being a workaholic. And
That's important.
I mean, I'm very good at saying no. I've homeless. I mean,
Sure.
so we'll get into that.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Cool. So can you just explain a little bit or talk a little bit more about your role as the pastor here and what you do?
Yeah. So like I've already said, like I pastor the Neighborhood Fellowship, which is primarily a homeless congregation, anywhere from 170 to 230 on a Sunday, and so like that's a lot of my time. And then I also deal with orphan care. And so we're really involved in adoptions and foster care and the orphan care closet and things like that. And so I oversee that. And then we are working on just racial reconciliation. And so I'm over that as well here at the church. And so those are kind of the 3 areas, but the Neighborhood Fellowship gets a majority of my time.
Okay. You're from a big city, so you've probably been around a lot of different places.
Sure.
Has your view on homeless changed since you've taken this role? And you've been a little more, I don't know, hands-on or anything like that?
So, like to answer that in a weird way, I've never wanted to work with the homeless. And I've lived in a low-income community for, I don't know, 8 years now. And in a non-white community. And so I feel more called to those kind of communities is what I thought. And then a few years ago, it kind of changed. And so I had to work through that. And so I come from like kind of being around just a set geography place. And now I'm around these people that don't have a geography and that go all over and aren't set a location. And so I would say it's just almost been this crazy learning curve this whole 2 years of just of being confused. But really, like, my primary thing has been to build relationship. Yeah. And so I don't think there's been a shift. I think it's been just this constant growing of just knowing, starting from I know nothing to let's have fun and figure this out.
Sure. Definitely.
So I know that maybe didn't answer your question in some ways, but yeah.
No, that's fine. Good answer. Where does Wichita fall on the spectrum? Is it like average as far as kind of a homeless population per capita, or is it worse, better?
You're going to get crazy high intense homeless populations in larger cities. So LA is going crazy right now. It is a epidemic type levels. Chicago's big, San Francisco, Hawaii actually has some of the most homeless.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so if we want to compare ourselves to those kind of things, no. But if we want to look at Kansas, like we get everyone in Kansas. Everyone comes here. And even Kansas City, like they come here because Kansas City's a spread out city.
Big, yeah.
And so so Wichita is viewed as a great place for homeless people to be at.
Okay.
And that reputation is getting out there more and more. And so we're seeing more homeless come because our services are centered in one location. And then also, like, food is not a problem. Food is not a problem. Okay. And so there is food, and some of that's just everything's in one location. And so people know to come there to give sack lunches. Okay. It's just the kind of the community knows. So it's a great place for homeless to be, actually.
Okay, that's interesting.
Which I've had homeless people chew me out's not the right word, but get on me that we make this too easy. That we need to stop allowing homeless people to make it and be able to be homeless for long periods of time.
Right. If they struggled a little more, they might try to...
Exactly. And these are homeless people, speaking of, they're like, this isn't me saying that. And so it's just very interesting when you hear that perspective.
Right. Yeah, I was looking up a couple of articles just to see if I could find any numbers on that. And there was an article from last year that said it's dropped 42% between 2015 and 2017. But I saw another article that was also last year that said it's slightly increased. So I'm sure it's hard with people coming in and how all that works. But
my guess would be that that who said what is based on whether it was a government. Mm-hmm. So governments tend to have lower numbers, and so meaning their definition of homelessness is stricter, and so it reduces the numbers. Where my definition would probably be like if you're sleeping on a on someone's couch mm-hmm. because you have nowhere else to be, that to me that's homeless.
Yeah, I agree.
Where the city of Wichita would not. They would not classify that. So
I think the part of the reason they were talking about why it dropped is one of the shelters had recently closed, or not shelter, maybe a food place, something had closed, and I think they thought it was decreasing because they were able to shut down because they weren't needing to serve as many people.
Send me that article.
I'll find it. Yeah, I'll send it to you. It was interesting, but. So I wanted to. One of the things that stood out was your experience this year and then last summer of living with the homeless, among the homeless. Yeah. So I kind of just wanted to hear a little bit about that and share that story. I know a lot of the people in our church have heard that,
sure.
but outside of that, maybe not heard that. So can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Be careful. I could go on for a while.
Oh, you're fine. Go as long as you want.
Let me talk about 2 years ago. The first time I did it.
So was this the third year?
This is the second year.
Okay, this is the second year.
Okay. The first year was terrifying. It was really scary. It was. I'm not a big anxiety. I'm pretty chill, but it was just messing with me. But it was good, and so I started the day out on a Sunday and with nothing. I mean, I did not bring any money, no credit cards. Last year I only brought a cell phone, a flip phone I went and bought that my wife's the only one who had the number. Mm-hmm. That was her requirement for me to do it.
Okay. That's funny.
Yeah. And so I really tried to live as much. And so one of the first problems I came up with is it was summer, July, really hottest week of the year.
Yeah, you picked a great time to try it out.
And all of a sudden I didn't have sunscreen. I just realized it.
I didn't even think about that.
And I started freaking out. I was like, this whole week is going to be miserable if I don't have sunscreen. Like, I'm not prepared to be outside a lot.
Right.
And so, I started asking around, and people, the homeless community, started giving me sunscreen. And so, that's a lot of what I started to see right away, is I was just being taken care of. The generosity was astounding. Within an hour, someone had given me their best North Face sleeping bag, their own. They'd given it to me so I would have something to sleep on for the week. And so
incredible.
And then that first night, I slept in NASCAR Park, which people know as different names, Hobo Park, Wino Park, on Douglas and St. Francis, I think, is the streets. And so I slept in that park. And so I go to bed, and all of a sudden at 1 a.m., I wake up, and all of a sudden I hear, and then I'm getting drenched by sprinklers. I mean, I have to grab my stuff and get it because and actually someone else came running to protect me. And what I did not know is because I was a pastor, I had people staying up all night to make sure no one messed with me. Wow. I didn't ask that,
right?
But I ended up having multiple people throughout the whole week. They did not want anyone to mess with me.
That's awesome.
And they disagreed. Literally, people disagreed with me sleeping outside. The homeless. They're like, it's too dangerous for you, John. You shouldn't be doing this. They didn't tell me this until I'm in the middle of it.
Right.
So I just had like stuff like that, of just people caring for one another. But isolation, loneliness. It was very lonely. I remember it was the Paul McCartney concert that week, and I had people walk by me. I was walking with 3 other homeless people around 11 o'clock midnight, and I'm a big dude, and they would not move. I've never been treated like this in my life.
Wow.
They made me move completely, and when I got done through the big crowd, the homeless guys turned to me and go, "Did you see that?" I go, "Oh, I saw that."
So you can get a small taste of what
Yes.
they deal with every day.
And that's exactly what is that. Like, I wasn't saying, oh, I now understand what homelessness is, because I've done a week. It's more, I know more today than I did before I did it.
And more than 99% of people.
Yeah, sure. And so, and a lot of it is, it's an empathy exercise. Mm-hmm. It's an exercise saying me too. Like, I get it. Like, a little bit. Mm-hmm. And it's the benefits that have come out of it are relationships. Mm-hmm. As being a pastor of a homeless, I think a pastor has to be friends with the congregation. Mm-hmm. And because of the power, it was so hard to build a friendship. And when I went out on the street, it, like, all of a sudden they're the expert. Mm-hmm. They're teaching me what to do in life. And it is a great experience. It flips the tables of our relationships, and it really helped me build some real, true, deeper friendships.
Right.
And that was the same this year as well.
Was it?
Yeah.
So I guess, how did this year compare to last year then? Similar time of year, right? Summer stuff?
Yeah, I did July both times. Last year was a lot of shock, excitement. I got kicked out of Quick Trip. Got in trouble in the library. Not for me being wild or anything, but like someone told on me because they didn't like my presence. To this year, I didn't have and those were like exciting. You know, I panhandled last year. This year, it was so much more relationships based. Mm-hmm. Like, I kind of had some of that, like, different, I don't know, like, I'd had the shock that was about me. Last year was about me, about me experiencing it. This year was hanging out as much as possible and building relationships. I mean, actually, this year I met a kid. His name's Levi. I met him at the mission, and it took, like, through turn of events, like, he started living with my intern. And so now, like, he's off the streets. He's 3 weeks off of meth. And so, like, and I see him regularly now. And so, like, just building things like that.
That's really cool.
There's just, like, multiple stories like that. It was just very different this year. This year, I allowed some people to come in and stay with me a little bit. Mm-hmm. This year, I had different people protecting me. I didn't ask for it, but people. So I slept with about 5 people, and they picked me. I didn't pick them. And they go, "You're coming with me. Like, I'll take care of you." Da da da. You know. And so they found me a spot. It was raining first night, so I started at 10 a.m. on Sunday, and at 5 p.m. it started to pour. I mean, pour. And so we had to switch where we were going to sleep. We already put our stuff kind of where we were going to sleep. And we had to switch it up. And so, like, that was very bizarre and just challenging. Oh, okay. And it took us a while to find a spot that was that would work for us.
Sure. Sure. And is that mostly in parks then, where they try to find places to sleep, safe places, or just wherever they can?
I mean, so it's interesting. So on storm nights, they know certain places are okay with them sleeping on their porches.
Okay.
And so they kind of have a gentleman's agreement in some ways.
Sure.
That if it's stormy, you can sleep here, and if you clean up your stuff.
Right.
And so they have some of that. Riverside Park, plenty of people, but plenty of people just on the sidewalks in downtown, behind corners, around the open door. A lot of people sleep. Yep. But the truth, under some bridges and stuff. But the truth is it's pretty taboo to ask where people sleep.
Right.
And so it would kind of be me coming to you and saying, how much money do you have? What kind of debt are you in? Like, whoa, how dare you ask that such a personal question?
Very personal, yeah.
And so, like, it's kind of the same thing that, like, I don't ask that question except the week where I'm living it. I get to. Because they ask me, where'd you sleep? Gotcha. I was like, I slept at First and Waco. Right. Which is where I slept most of the time. And so they're like, oh, where at First and Waco? And, you know, and we're just going on and dialoguing. And one thing that was really different this year is because I had to sleep on cement this year. So I have sleep apnea, so I have to wear a mask. And I brought my mask, and that's one of the things I brought. And so I needed outlet. and we needed shelter. And so I slept, they don't know this yet, but Riverwalk Church on First and Waco.
Okay.
So sleeping under their entrance. Thank you, Pastor, for if you hear this. And I go to sleep about 10 o'clock at night, and I wake up at 1 in bad pain. Like I'd gotten punched in the kidneys by Mike Tyson. Like it was so painful. And it was really a place I'm either quitting or I'm going to get a blow-up mattress. And so I figured it out, and I went home, called my wife, hey, you need to put the blow-up mattress on the porch. And so I actually slept with a blow-up mattress the entire week because of cement. And I mean, I got made fun of for it, like
couple jabs.
Oh yeah, they're like, you can't hang and then another homeless person would come in and say, if you had a mattress, you would sleep on it. And they're like, oh, that's true.
Yeah.
And so it was just kind of this like, this is a part of the game, but at the same time, I'm using my privilege and the part of the game. Like that's what some person said. He's like, well, I mean, if you got the resources to do it, do it. I go, well, I have the resources to go buy a hotel room.
Right, yeah.
He's like, okay, good point. You do need some false parameters.
Yeah.
So.
That makes sense. How do you pronounce that park's name?
Nafsker.
Yeah. So is it currently closed?
Yes.
And so how has that affected the community? Because I know
radical.
That's a big center place for...
Oh. I get angry. Yeah. I mean, it's... And not angry at some, like, not like that I'm saying the city's wrong in it. It's just, I hate to see something disrupt a community.
Right.
And I'm not saying they're right in it either. I'm not going to take a stand right now, but it's drastically affected them. Like, where I'll take a stand is how, when it reopens, how the homeless are treated, type of thing. That's where I'll get frustrated or not. But yeah, like, I mean, let me just, on Sunday, my first year, I got eight meals that day on a Sunday. 5 of them were from NASCAR Park.
Wow.
This year, I only got 3 meals. 2 meals. No, 3 meals. I got 3 meals. And all of them were set locations that have been running for a long time.
Right.
Like, and so like none of the random, and so like last year, the other 5 came from people pulling up and opening up their trunks.
Wow.
And I tried to, like, there was aware of where they were, and I tried to go to them because they like have to go to different locations, and I'd go there, and I would, like, there wouldn't be any food left.
Right.
Or I'd go to another place and I wouldn't get there in time because it's so challenging to get across.
But before, there was a central location.
Central location, oh yeah. But also just hanging out.
Right.
Last year, there were so many people. After about 7 o'clock at night, there's nothing to do. Everyone, like, goes their separate ways in many ways, except some kind of go and hang out. And that's where I'd go, and I'd have some of my best relational time for 3, 4, 5 hours. But this year, that was all gone. All of it. No one is hanging out in the same location. And I mean, I can't tell you how many people that were homeless at one time loved to come back into the community. So our church, 170, 230, half are homeless today and half are no longer.
Wow.
But it's they still come. They still love these people.
It's their community still.
Yeah. And so, and I think when you take this to a community that doesn't have a place and you take their place for decades away, that's huge problems. And it's really sad.
Yeah.
And so the homeless community has not found a solution.
Okay.
So, like, there is no, I get texts and calls, hey, where should I go now? And I'm like, I don't know where you should take your meals. I guess the open door would probably be my best guess. But.
Yeah, it's tough because it's such an easy central location.
It is.
Close to a lot of stuff.
It is. But it's also, like, it's great location, but it had shade, which is essential, and it had benches in the shade, and it had and it had like kind of different places that you could hang out, and so it's not all one. And so I did hang out in the it's right by NASCAR Park. It's between the two buildings.
Yeah.
That park, you know what I'm talking about? I forgot what it's named. I hung out there with some people, and all of the people I hung out with aren't homeless. But it was Sunday. They came in to hang out with their community. And I got to hang out there with them. But those are the kind of, it's people like that aren't truly homeless in some ways that come in to hang out in this epicenter. And so, yeah.
Okay. So during your sermon, the first one where you talked about it, you had a story about being first in line.
Yeah.
Can you tell that story?
Sure.
About the prayer.
Yeah. So at the Open Door, which the Open Door is wonderful. It's run by the United Methodists. It's a day shelter, so Monday through Friday. So it opens at 7 and closes at 5, and they serve a lunch. And so every meal they hand out tickets, and that's the order that you go in. You know, and I'm a newbie, so I'm going to get at the end. And then right before they're about to do meal, they just go, Pastor, can you pray? I was like, sure. And so I prayed, and I have a loud voice, and I yelled in the prayer, and then he goes, you get to go front now. And I'm like, oh, I'll do this.
Absolutely.
I'll take this place of honor. And so I get to go first. And then everyone else is like, man, you're going to pray every day this week, aren't you? I go, yep.
If he gets me in front of the line.
A fat guy loves to eat first. And so, but what was interesting is, it was joke. And so I pray. I think it was the second day I did it. And they kind of like have these doors that are closed where the food is. And so they open the doors, and there's volunteers back there. And these volunteers are like, hey, did you pray? I go, yeah, I prayed. I need to hear the prayer. If I'm like, what? And I was so confused. I was like, I prayed.
Yeah, just did it. Just now.
I really prayed. And he's like, I like to hear the prayer. I just like to hear the prayers before meals. And I was just like, I was so confused. I was like, I prayed. He's like, you prayed? I go, I prayed. And then the next person in line goes, we need to pray before this meal. I go, I've already prayed. And then I just stand there awkwardly. And I kind of out-awkward their awkwardness. And they finally gave me a tray. And they let me go through, and it took me 24 hours to realize what was going on. And for me to like get out of my privilege world in the everyone trusts me world, that they didn't trust me because I looked homeless. They didn't trust that I said they thought I needed to lie so we could eat 30 seconds. I'm a short prayer. So 30 seconds early.
Right.
And I was just like, this is crazy. And so it's these stereotypes that this is kind of why I do it. Like, as I learn stuff like that, what would it look like to be in their shoes? And so I live in a diverse, under-resourced community. And some of the reason why I do that is so that I can say, it's not their problems. It's our problems. I'm a part of the problems. It's my kids' school. It's my kids' streets. And so rather than just like I'm the savior coming to help them, it's no, we've got to do this. And that's to some extent like what happens that week is it's like, man, we were treated this way.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? People should not, come on.
Right.
And so that's one of the gifts, but again, it builds that trust, because then I talk about it with some people. Man, I can't. Did you see that? I go, I can't. That happens to you guys all the time, doesn't it? Yep.
And you can say we, not being in that position, but it means something more when you've been through it with them.
Absolutely. I get people. People come up and cry. Like, I can't believe you do this. I can't believe you would choose to go away from your family for a whole week and come and hang out with us. And I go, like, it's not a sacrifice. It's a gift. Like, this is easier than watching my kids at home. Like, you know, like, this is, like, I get to play cards, like,
hang out,
have great conversation, which I love people. And so it's just, it was a gift. It really, that's what I've come to so see with the homeless is they're just such beautiful people. And with great stories, and they're just so fun to be around.
And I don't think enough people see that side of
and I agree.
The community.
I agree. And I think that, like, so much of... I think what I've noticed in my life, let me just speak from there, when I'm afraid of that I might be in danger, 90 to 95% of the time, it's ignorance of why I feel that way. I'm really not in danger. Mm-hmm. It's just that I don't understand how to put all the data together, and it's new and scary, and so I feel like I'm unsafe. And then I start to write narratives of that person. Mm-hmm. The truth is, homeless people, yeah, there's some statistics of crime, sure, but if you're not involved in doing those illegal activities or, like, stealing from them, they're not going to punch you or get in a fight with you.
Right.
Like, it's just not going to happen. And so, like, that's the thing is that it's and I've lived in Chicago in these communities where it's, like, a lot more dangerous.
Yeah.
And, like, it's if you're involved in that, if you're not, like, it's just, like, the worst that's going to happen is they're going to take my wallet. I don't care, like,
right.
Whatever. And so I just think a lot more people need to, like, it's learning street smarts. It's learning how to be smart in certain situations. And that's a lot of what I've had to learn. Mm-hmm. And I've been, I've had moments in Chicago and with the homeless that, like, my blood is, I'm confused about what's going on. And all of my body's so alert. And my mind has to say, calm down. Mm-hmm. You don't know the facts. Mm-hmm. And I have to calm my body down. And it's challenging. It's hard.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But it's essential, I think.
Yeah. So another thing you've kind of learned this last go-around was that one of the big things that's missing in our community and probably other communities, but is that there's no women-specific shelter.
Yeah.
And you saw some of the stuff that they went through. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Sure. There's a women's shelter in the winter,
okay.
But during the rest of the year, there's not. Until there are 5 months of a shelter and 7 months no shelter. What I've described it is that I've had to confess overlooking the way these women are being treated. That I knew it was going down, but like didn't know or just didn't see a solution. Like, how do I solve 100 women's, like, problem of being assaulted?
Right.
As one person. And so, but the truth is that if we opened a shelter, women would have an avenue where they could not have to have a man to protect them.
Right.
And so I didn't run into one woman this week that had not been assaulted. One.
That's terrible.
And I literally saw 3 instances in a week where the assault had happened within 30 minutes and the lady was having a breakdown.
Oh my gosh.
And it's through and so what I'm trying to do right now is we're trying to start a shelter, a women's shelter. And I'm working really hard at trying to do that. And I just can't look away anymore. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I was going to say something else. I don't remember.
What's the biggest obstacle for us or somebody else from starting that? Is it just money, time, volunteers?
I think it depends on, all of those.
Yeah.
I think there's a thing in all. Like right now, what's stopping me? I wanted to start September 1st, and what I think the challenge of doing that, it's probably gonna make it so it can't happen. That I'm gonna get the no is this liability.
Sure.
And which is real.
Yeah.
And that we couldn't get insurance fast enough.
Gotcha.
And so it's just, all these things just take time and planning. To then also build it up, like, because you can try to do a good thing, and by doing it fast, you can actually hurt people. And but I believe we could do it, but it would have to take a lot of risk on.
Yeah.
And as the justice dude, of course, I want to do it, but there's the other side. Right. But I mean, like one of the biggest challenges is the questions I don't have answered. Is when you have a population where a sexual assault is so regular, like, well, there are effects of assault. It affects you, and so there's this community that's really been affected, and is the least predictable in the homeless.
Right.
You know, of they need to really feel safe and trust. Like I got told by homeless women this week when I was asking them, they said, don't you dare ask for their first and last name. If you ask for their last name, they won't give it to you. Like they don't trust. Like, and so it's a challenging population. And so the question is do you need like a social worker that's licensed and being paid? Is volunteers enough? Can you do it with just volunteers? And I don't know the answer to that question yet.
Yeah, it's not as easy as just throwing a couple beds
It's not. It's not. And especially when you're talking, up closer to 30 people and personalities. And so, but I don't think money would have been the problem. I think I basically had enough people that's told me we'll cover it. And so I don't think money was a problem. I think creating a 501c3 that's separate, that protects us, and then also are there zoning and all those kind of things, and dealing with that. And so,
okay. So I guess one of the main interactions a lot of people probably have with homeless people potentially is like a panhandler on the corner by Walmart or downtown or wherever. And so you have some experience doing that, and as well as talking to these people. So I guess what would be your comment to somebody that says, why would I give this person $5? They're just going to go spend it on booze or drugs.
Sure. That's a one. I change how I answer this question very regularly, if I'm honest.
I flip flop all the time.
Yeah.
When I'm talking to my wife and.
Yeah. I'm going to answer this because it's not a one way answer. I think if there's children present, if you see children present, so you might more so see children present at like a Walmart, and they're like, I would do something. Like, I think, do they need something? Can you go run back in the store and get it? Even if someone's asking, if Walmart asks for $5, go in and get it. It's possible they could return it and buy something with, but like, okay. Like, I've had to wrestle with, I used to be someone who said, no, don't give anything. And I was reading Tim Keller, a pastor in New York, and he just has this quote of, how much has God given me that I have misstewarded?
Sure. That's a really good way to look at it.
And if he's so loving that he'll allow me to missteward things, why do I think I can't give someone love, money, a gift, and allow them to misuse it? And so I think it's like this over fear at times of, I don't want to be taken advantage of. Yeah. And it's almost your own issues and your own junk preventing you to do that. I have to deal with that a lot. And I can get to that later. Like, I mean, quick side, like, so I literally had someone text me this week, Monday, all caps, I will be homeless if this doesn't stop. And if you had a friend text you that, that's level 9, level 10 stuff. Right. It came in as a level 2 to me. I was like, I have 100 people in my life that are like that. And I felt like in my brain, I was like, I was like, I'm so sorry that like this is crazy, and he wanted $650. That's what he needed, and he wanted me to just provide that. And I was like, do you know how many people ask this of me? So I've just like saying you're homeless is just like level 2, level 3.
Yeah.
Like I get that all the time. But then, like, you have, like, this happened to my middle-class homies. Like, someone said to me, like, recently, like, hey, I'm lonely because my friend's out of town, or my spouse is out of town, something like that. Okay. And they got mad at me that I didn't, like, help them.
Right.
And I just look at them and I go, I have homeless people telling me I don't have a home.
Right.
You giving me a subtle hint. You need to tell me sometimes, hey, John, I just need to hang out with you. Oh, great. Let's do it. But I'm not, these implicit things of middle class, I miss them sometimes.
Yeah.
Because my life is just full of intense needs.
Sure.
So to get back to like what I do think people buy booze. But I also have seen a drunkard who's probably one of the best panhandlers in the city. I panhandled with him, and he taught me how, and I saw him give some of his money to friends. I saw him buy groceries, and I saw him buy booze. And so I think that like all this is going to go to booze is I think it's too naive.
Sure.
And so is some of it? Maybe. Good chance sometimes. But like I think it's also going to go to real things. And so if you can find questions to find out like what do they really need, gift cards, but I just say like at least what you should do is look the person in the eye. Hey, how you doing?
Sure.
And
acknowledge that they're a person, which they don't
their
get
presence.
a lot. Yeah.
Be okay, be comfortable with saying no to somebody. Rather than thinking the best, like, I don't want to hurt their feelings by saying no to them. That's not why. I think that's copy now.
It's not why you're walking by and not looking at them.
Correct. I think it's challenging to say no. It's hard. There's times where, of course, you have to look away. You're busy. You're in a hurry. Of course. But I think a lot of it is that most people have not rubbed up close with poverty, and they don't know how to say no to devastating things. And so I would say that if that's the case, if that's your reaction, that you need to now get yourself involved, not as the savior, not as the fixer, but in a relationship.
Okay.
And so, like, that's my main thing. My main thing, I wish I would have said this minute 2 or 3 or 4 of the podcast. My main thing I believe in is, like, so we have a medical team, we have a medical clinic, we have a dental clinic, and we have other things. And those teams are not allowed to take volunteers from my relational team. And my relational team is people that are middle class who come in and sit every week at the tables and hang out with homeless people. That's the highest thing you can do. They're the priority. And so, and that's what I think everyone needs to do is to realize that they need relationship. There's one negative emotion before the fall. What is it?
One negative emotion before the fall?
Yeah.
Loneliness?
Yep.
Yeah.
Most people don't get that.
Yeah.
Adam was lonely. In perfection, in the garden, when everything's supposed to be right, Adam was lonely. And my argument is that loneliness is the deepest heartache of humanity. And if you have this group of people that people won't even look in their eyes, won't acknowledge their presence, I think the thing that they really need the most is relationship and connection. So if you can give that, give your time, which is in many ways more valuable than $5.
Sure.
For people. Just talk to them for 10 minutes. That's what I would tell people to do.
Okay.
More, and then you can better assess, should I give anything?
All right, that's awesome. That ties right into the next one. What would be the best way to help? So I think that's it.
That's it. Is relation, like, get to know somebody. Find a place, like, even if it's with children, like at a children's home or something. Get to know the oppressed is what I think is essential.
Okay.
Yeah.
hopefully a lot of people are hearing that and taking it to heart then.
Yeah,
So.
I hope so.
I'm not going to put you on the spot, but if you have any recommended scripture about any of this, I'll definitely link it in the notes.
I'm a pastor.
Yeah. I don't know if you have them off the top of your head.
Of course I do.
Okay. Well, if you have some, go for it, and I'll link them as well.
Philippians 2 is the key for me. So verse 1 talks about if you have any love, any common sharing, if you've experienced the love of God, then the verses right below that say, then have the same, not same mind, if you've experienced the love, then basically be like that, and look after the interests of others. And so don't look after your own interests, but the interests of others. And verse 5 says, have the same attitude as Christ.
Sure.
And then, who humbled himself, he gave up his godness to become a man. And so that's for me, is of intentionally giving up your power, intentionally giving up your privilege, and looking after the interests of others. And so Jesus dwelled with us, he hung out with us, he came on this earth, incarnated himself. And I just don't, that's essential for me. That's the core of why
huge.
I do the week, is to hang out, to dwell with them. But also to humble myself. I'm giving up my power. I'm giving up my privilege, and not that I'm Jesus, but I'm trying to model and be like him.
We're supposed to be like him.
Yeah. So that's kind of what that's one of the biggest for me, and I teach on it I preach on it at least once a year with the neighborhood fellowship.
Awesome.
So.
All right, so we're going to switch it up a little bit now.
Yeah.
So I think you said in one of your sermons or something you're a big fan of hip hop. Is that?
Oh yeah.
Do you have any favorites or?
I love
old school stuff, new school stuff, all of it.
I mean, I've loved Kanye. I love Tupac. I love Biggie. I've loved Eminem. I really can't enjoy him too much.
I'm the same. Yeah,
it's kind of just it's of its time, but today it just hurts my ears. There's a few of his songs that don't, but I love. I appreciate Common. Kendrick Lamar is just amazing.
Yeah, he's incredible.
And so, but the truth is I've in many ways in the last probably year, 2, 3, stopped listening to music, and I don't really listen to podcasts of
that's fair.
Narrative storytelling is what I'm obsessed with.
Okay.
So.
And I'll hop right into the next one then. Is there something you often recommend to people? Books, movies, shows, podcasts? What would those recommendations be?
You're getting dangerous. This is I could go on. This American Life podcast is, I think, the best storytelling of any medium.
Okay.
I think it's just unbelievable. They're the ones that came out with Serial as well. I think one of my favorite books is Gang Leader for a Day.
Okay. I have not read that one.
Yeah, it comes Freakonomics. It's one of the chapters from Freakonomics.
Okay, maybe yeah.
Yeah, you probably remember one of the stories. Emperor of Maladies. It's a biography of cancer. It's just fantastic. One of my favorite books I recommend is Columbine.
Okay.
A book that studies Columbine. It breaks. There's a lot of myths that happen through the media that are not true. Like the trench coat mafia is not real. It's a complete fake.
I've heard about that, and I didn't know any better. So
so it's just stuff. It's just a fantastic book. But I love TV. I love books. I love to read. And so, I can go on and on and on.
I'll link all the ones you talked about, though, for sure. Let people get into those. What is your morning routine like? And if you have one, and how did you get into that?
I hate that question. Right now, my routine is I'm not a morning person. I hate the morning.
Okay.
And I have been changing. I've had to change since the union, especially. And so right now I get up about 5:50, 6 o'clock, and I go to the Y. And Monday through Friday, and I work out for an hour or two. It's been today was 2 hours, and
it's a long time.
I basically have two of my closest friends. I'm trying to get healthy, and they choose. I'm not in control. There were a lot, and so today Ben Davis was like,
oh yeah, Ben Davis.
And it was 2 hours, and I was dead, and so I do that, and then take a shower, and then head over here, and then I work sometimes in the nights, and so but that's usually my routine.
Okay, cool. Do you have a favorite failure in any aspect of your life, whether it's school, work, family, whatever it is? I steal a lot of these questions from some of the other podcasts I listen to. So
I really love that question. I used to do stand-up comedy.
Did you really?
And I love failing in comedy.
Okay.
I love really bombing. It's a lot of fun. Just to like have it say something and it doesn't work. And it just crickets. And you thought it would.
Yeah.
And then you get to realize, why did you think it would? What didn't come across? What character are you portraying? And that the character doesn't make sense. It wasn't explicit, or it's just not funny. And so I love to bomb that way. It's taught me a lot.
That's terrifying to me. Thinking about trying to do that. I'm not much of a public speaker, so trying to do that and then just not getting that reaction that'd be really hard.
But this is the beauty, is that Chris Rock still bombs today.
Yeah.
Like all of the good, and so it's this one venue where failing and bad failure is what the experts still do.
Yeah.
And so I think in some ways that makes it safe for me.
Right.
Is like, well, Chris Rock bombed,
should be
so
no
I can bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but that's like kind of my fun. I really like failure. I love watching people fail. I really enjoy it. Because I know what's coming out of it. Mm-hmm. I know that goodness so comes out of a character. For me, this is very personal, but like one of the best failure in my life is I had I knew I wanted to be a pastor, and in college, and I had premarital sex, and so coming to this place of doing that let me see that I could do anything. I could do any sin, and it really made me like work through who I am, because I remember I wanted to be a pastor since eighth grade, and so like I have like 8th grade on, not gone too far with women, not drank, not smoked weed. I mean nothing.
Right.
Don't cuss. Like, I'm the good kid, and then I come in the middle of college. There's 1 month where my girlfriend and I struggled, and we went there, and then we stopped and never did for 2 more years. But like the fact that I did was just, it's changed who I am, because a pastor's not supposed to do that. Right. And just how, like, even answer the question, how can I still be a pastor or want to be a pastor if that's where I was at? And so it changed who I am. I'm very, very thankful for that failure. Yeah. It allowed me to love myself. Sure. And to allow myself to fail. Sure.
Going back to the stand-up comedy, when's the last time you did that? That's really interesting. Do you do any? Have you done any open mics recently?
I stopped right before the union.
Okay.
And I stopped because so the union is 2 churches merged and became one, and so it's a church merge. And I came from, remember, First Baptist. I was a part of this church as a kid, so they loved me. And I had told my boss, Steve, that, so leadership, other leaders knew I was doing it, but like that at times you can say a word or a phrase that's like some people would say is inappropriate. Right. And if I did that at First Baptist, they love me. They would say, Jon, don't stop. Right. But like it wouldn't like turn their opinion of me like in an inappropriate way. When you're coming into a new place that they don't know who you are, and this is one of the first impressions, like if it got out, because Facebook Live was starting to get big, and like they're starting to Facebook Live stuff, and I was like this is not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this to be around like 49 Christians and get to know them, and having great conversations and working stuff out, and I asked Joey Fink and I asked my dad, like, do you think it's wise for me to stop? And they kind of said, yeah. Sure. And I agreed. Yeah. And I've thought about going back up, because I don't say crazy stuff. Right. But like it's just like as an elder, I just wanted to be above reproach. I didn't want to have anything in there.
Yeah, definitely.
And I was open and honest with everybody about it. So I will do it again. I love it. It's the funnest thing. So I don't know if you've heard my sermon the other day. I think you did.
Yeah.
So that guy who I started telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
And he told the punchline of my story and ruined my entire story because I preached twice. And I was just like, you just ruined my punchline. And like, not just of a story. And so like my wife, after I was done with that, she goes, I'm so glad you have stand-up experience. Because I knew how to turn that and what to do with it.
It could have crushed somebody.
Exactly. Because it was my opening. This was my opening of setting up everything I'm going to talk about. And all of a sudden, but it was because of that, I flipped it and allowed it to get laughter, and I brought it back, And so that was all my stand-up experience of enjoying failure, of enjoying the thrill. Like, what can I do now?
Right.
So
think on your feet a little bit.
Yeah.
You handled that really well.
Well, thanks. I thought so too, if I'm honest. But it was fun. But I was also like, you little punk.
Come on.
Come on. Don't do that.
This is a question that everyone always like, oh, this is kind of tough. But do you have a definition of success, or what does that look like in your mind for whoever, you yourself or whoever?
I think it's loving people. Like, are you good at it? Mm-hmm. Are you good at caring for people? Like, the people most closest to us. I think we all struggle about injustice, and like we get revved up about it. But the truth is that we then are willing to hurt some of the people that are closest to us and do, like, that's the most unjust thing in many ways, is hurting people that are close, because hurt from close hurts more than anything.
Right.
So I would say, like, really, really loving well, working through your junk, processing your story, and then whatever gifts you have, whatever natural abilities, how are you using them? Okay. Like, what are they being used for? And are you working hard? I mean, I know someone, his name's Matt, and he's been in prison for 24 of his 48 years. He just told me today that that food stamps for him were currency. That was money. That's what he thought money was food stamps until he was like 14 years old. And so, like, a different background than me.
Oh, yeah.
And he, in prison, taught himself how to read, and now reads hard books. He's read books that I don't want to read because the old English is so challenging and annoying. He taught himself how to read in prison, and now reads these things 4 to 5 times to get them. But he's doing the work.
Yeah.
And I'm just so so impressed with the guy.
Impressive.
And so it's like that. Like what are you doing with your story, with who you are? I don't believe in comparing. I don't think success has anything to do with comparing yourself to someone else.
That's big, yeah, definitely.
I think it's really about, like, who are you? What are your abilities? What's your capacity? And what are you doing with it? And how are you loving people?
So that's awesome. Do you have a life motto you live by, or what's the best advice you've received? Does anything pop in your head?
I don't know. I mean, it would be Phillipians 2.
Okay.
Look after the interests of others.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
that's fine. That's perfect. Is there a habit you've developed over the past couple of years that's most improved your life?
Yeah. I try to go to bed at the same time every night.
Yeah.
I struggle with shutting my brain down.
Yeah.
And so I try to go to bed and wake up at the same time every day. And in that, I've seen a lot of other things find balance. Because I'm ADHD. I love long stretches, and I love the late at night, but I just can't do that.
Yeah.
And so I've seen that just kind of recalibrate naturally and curb some of my impulsivity in a very helpful way.
Do you have a good way to wind down at night then to kind of settle your brain, reading or anything?
Monday through Thursday, I read.
Mm-hmm.
I try to read. I haven't been doing great in the last month, but I try to read until my brain can't anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time I'll go to bed, and then Friday through Sunday I allow myself to watch TV at night. Okay. And so I need about an hour to myself.
Mm-hmm.
So my wife goes to bed about an hour before I do, and if I'm not by myself, I won't be. I'll stay up later.
Sure.
And so I need something. It's either TV or a book,
mm-hmm.
and I just, depending on which day is what.
Cool.
That is.
What's your favorite part of Wichita, or a hidden gem that some people might not know about?
One of my favorite parts of Wichita is the YMCA water parks.
Mm-hmm.
With my family. We go there every Wednesday in the summer because the heat is so bad. So it's just we already have a membership, so it's like this free extra gift. I love College Hill. Mm-hmm. I love Riverside area a lot, and I love the downtown area. A gem. Asia Cafe on Woodlawn and Central, I think, is the best Asian food in Wichita.
Okay.
It's one of the.
I live pretty close to that, so I'll have to go try it out.
Fantastic. Cafe Asia, I think is what it's called.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen the sign. I've just never been there.
Oh, it's so good.
Okay, I'll have to try that. Good. Is there anything you wish Wichita had that it doesn't, or anything specific part you'd improve about Wichita?
Yes. A last hidden gem would be Jack's Coffee Shop.
Okay.
On the south side. It's not owned by Jack, and they don't serve coffee. And it's...
Would have fooled me.
Some people think it's the best burger in Wichita. It's a burger about the size of a plate.
Oh, wow.
And, I mean, it's a hole in the wall, and it will wreck you. But it is good.
I'm going to have to try that then.
I actually took my dad there, and he had a heart attack that night.
That's a good endorsement. Put that up on the wall.
I know. So I don't really go there much anymore because of that, but it's really good.
Okay. Let's keep that in mind.
Improve Wichita. Yes. A lot. I think I would like Wichita State to become more of an academic powerhouse.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if it can become a really think tank of academics with PhDs and really working hard at that, I think that could change the whole culture of this city.
Yeah.
And so I would just want us to see poor in Wichita State. And so like kind of become a bigger college town.
Yeah,
almost.
I agree. Definitely.
And so I think we need to do whatever we can to keep our basketball team, like whatever it takes.
Give Marshall whatever he wants to stick around.
Exactly. I wish football would work. I don't think it will. But I think that's some of like the thing I think that needs to be built up to another level.
I agree, definitely.
And then I think just people need to be more creative.
Yeah.
And create their own culture. I think we need a lot make Wichita weird. Like we need some of that. We need our young people to have restaurants and businesses that are more out of passion projects than like to make mass amounts of money.
Right.
Not that they can't they can't make their money and like survive and make $100,000 profit or anything like that. But just like it's not
chasing the money.
Yeah. It's for I love being a chef.
Right.
Type of thing. So
cool. What does Wichita mean to you?
Wichita, it's a place that takes a while for you to love it.
Mm-hmm.
And once you do, which I'm at. I love Wichita. I mean, I do. I mean, I know I made the opposite claim in the beginning, but I really do like this city and appreciate it. Like I said, we could be here for a very long time. It's where my parents live.
Mm-hmm.
My dad's my best friend, and so it means a place of just getting to spend time with them. It's a place where I feel like rent is cheap, it's affordable to live, and there's good people, and I have great relationships. My relationships is what, that's how I'd edit it.
Yeah.
Relationships is what Wichita means to me.
Awesome.
So,
where can people find you? You have social media or anything, or?
I've kind of, I do. I don't really care about.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I
figured I'd ask. So.
Yeah. So I think I'm reacting against social media right now.
Yeah, that's fine. Understandable. Do you have any final comments or maybe a call to action for the community? Just to kind of sum it up.
Yeah. Get to know people who are different than you. And I mean, like, build a relationship. Like, have them at your house. I know everyone can't do this. It's a bad example in many ways. But, like, I have the homeless in my house on Christmas Day or Thanksgiving Day every year. Whichever one, I'm not in Atlanta. And it's the best gift ever. And so, like, just, like, this relationship building type of a thing. And there's other times where I do that relationship. But that's what I tell people. Just spend time with people that are different race, social class than you. And I'm telling you, it's a gift. It's a real gift.
Awesome.
So.
It was a great conversation. I appreciate you sitting down with me.
Well, I appreciate you being willing to hear about some crazy stuff and from a boring dude. So,
thanks again, man.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone who stuck it out and listened to the episode of the Wichita Life podcast. Thanks to the local Wichita band The Caves for use of their song. You can find links to everything we discussed in the show notes at wichitalifeict.com. Hit the subscribe button on your podcast app so you don't miss any of the interviews we have coming up. If you have any comments or recommendations for our podcast, feel free to contact us at wichitalifeict@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, hasta luego.